The Gregorian calendar sped up a little bit this year, so we ended Hanukkah just a little bit early. Normally what I do right after Hanukkah is give my annual Christmas sermon, which has been a staple of Orator since our very first service, which, by the way, was on December 11th. December 11th, 1993. And we had our first service in a church, and there was a big Christmas tree in the room. And from December 1993 until December 2007, Orator has always had a Christmas tree in the room. And I got to tell you, last year we were thinking about it. It felt kind of, you don't give up traditions that are 16 years old very easily, and right. But I think it would have given the wrong impression had we. But there's a Christmas tree in my heart every December. I need you to know that. So it's too early for the Christmas sermon. Hanukkah's over. So whenever I have these little spaces between the day when the day actually suggests the teaching, I think about things that are on my mind, things I like the congregation to know. So I brought up something today, which is a staple, I'll say, in any literate Jew's education. Certainly in rabbinical school, any place where one is actually starting to master Jewish text, and that's a text that I'll share with you. That the number one is a very profound and daring text when you look at it in the context of rabbinic Judaism, but on the other hand, I think causes a lot of confusion in our own religious lives, not so much maybe spiritual lives. It's very challenging spiritually, and I think is the one of the texts which is the source of Reform Judaism in the 1810s and 20s, how Reform Judaism understood itself and how it was able to launch in the face of orthodoxy, and why conservative Judaism broke off from Reform Judaism. Some people think that it went Orthodox, then conservative, then Reform. It actually went Orthodox to Reform, which was understood by many to be too radical, and then conservative was a reaction to that, to not go all the way back to Orthodoxy, but a place where at least some tradition was kept. So the text I want to share with you comes at the end of a tractate of the Talmud. So sometimes when I say Talmud, I know people don't know what I'm talking about. So it's this book. You've probably seen this in movies, pictures. Okay, all right. So this is the one. And what the Talmud is, very briefly, comes from the Mishnah. The Mishnah is a code of law that was published about 220 CE. Published, I don't mean in a book form, but there was a final text that was agreed upon, and it was not easy to agree upon this text because there were so many different understandings of the oral law. Originally, the oral law was simply commentaries on the Torah. You'd have a line of Torah and then an oral tradition, a line of Torah and an oral tradition. But that was a very, very difficult way to understand the law conceptually. So the law was understood interpretively, meaning how to interpret a verse of the Bible, but not conceptually, meaning let's put all of the civil law in one place, criminal law in another place, laws of prayer in another place, etc. So the Mishnah was an attempt to organize the oral law, but it was very, very lean. So the Mishnah did not tell us, for example, how a given law came from Scripture, or what all the different arguments were to arrive at that law. So when the Mishnah became the final text that was approved by Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, number one, he left a lot of text metaphorically on the editing floor. But remember, we're not talking about a text that was published in book form, but rather memorized. So there were many teachings of the Jewish tradition that existed in the memories of those who were the professional memorizers that were not part of the official version. So after the Mishnah comes out, there's a desire, number one, to start to remember some of those texts that are outside the Mishnah, first of all, and number two, to try to figure out why the Mishnah decided what it decided. So another text came in after the Mishnah, and from the Aramaic word lemigmar, which means to study, it was called the Gemara, the study, meaning the study of the Mishnah. So the Talmud has little paragraphs of Mishnah, and then page after page of Gemara, meaning trying to figure out how the Mishnah got to its conclusion, figuring out what the Mishnah is actually saying, what the scriptural sources might be, and also to bring in the outside text that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi did not put in the Mishnah. So if you want to understand Judaism in its what I'll call the living origins of the Judaism that we practice, you study Talmud. because Talmud actually shows you the thinking of the rabbis as they tried to figure out the Mishnah and create what we call not just Jewish law, because most of the Talmud is not law. Most of the Talmud is what's called Agadah, which means narrative, speculation, poetry, fantasy, etc. And it's in those narratival sections that you actually find, in some ways, the more philosophic side.